Canfield, co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, the author of the Success Principles, How to Get from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. And today I have a wonderful guest, Carol Edmiston. She is known as the Doodle Lady, and she's the author of The Healing Power of Doodling, Mindfulness Therapy to Deal with Stress, Fear, and Life Challenges. And it's an Amazon #1 new release. She's also a 2-time breast cancer survivor whose story appeared in Chicken Soup for the Breast Cancer Survivor's Soul. So welcome, Carol. Glad to have you with us today.
I'm delighted to be with you.
Now, you're a 2-time breast cancer survivor and a part-time doodler. And that one seems like about as serious as you can possibly get in life. And I think a lot of people think of doodling as maybe a frivolous thing that, mindless kind of thing. What's the connection between the two for you?
Well, cancer, how serious can you get? That really took me into a space of all these frightening, fear-based thoughts, wondering if I'm going to live or die, if my son and my husband are going to be without me. And then the world of creativity, of doodling stepped in, which is to the just complete other extreme of, being able to give me this place to be calm and peaceful. So the whole process of going from fear to faith, that doodling became the bridge for me.
Say more about that. How is it that it became the bridge for you?
Well, I was so surprised that, I was waiting nervously at a doctor's office for some test results, and I was feeling so incredibly nervous, and thumbing through magazines in the time it could count to 10 or less. So I thought, well, I better ask the nurse for a piece of paper and a pen, or else my blood pressure is going to be off the chart. And so I just sat down and started aimlessly making little squiggle marks and then going back and filling them in. And after a while, I realized that, I'm not worried about these test results. I was just in a space of feeling really calm and peaceful for that moment in time. So when I went home that night, I thought about it again, and I thought, maybe there's something to this. So I decided to, go find a blank notebook and make it my doodle book and take it with me wherever I knew I had to wait.
Now, obviously, not everyone is confronting as stressful a situation as you were there, although there are a lot of stressors in our culture today, as we know. But do you think everyday people that are not necessarily dealing with trauma can get the same benefit or value that you got from doodling?
Oh, absolutely. I've kind of discovered that I don't think any of us are not prone to feeling some sense of stress in our life on a day-to-day basis, whether we're dealing with kids, we're dealing with traffic, or anything related. So I think it's important that we all have a little resource bag of strategies that can help promote, a good health and well-being for us. This happened to be one of the little tools. So, it's important to take a little time every day, even if you may only have 15 minutes, and niche out some peace and quiet for yourself. And doodling was the vehicle that worked for me.
So for you, is doodling like a practice that brings you into the present moment? Everything else fades away, and that's why it's so relaxing and stress relieving?
Absolutely. I gave myself, I don't know where it came from, one little guideline when I was making, the art. I love beginnings and middles and ends. I love to have things figured out ahead of time. And I realized quickly that cancer plopped me right into an unknown middle. So some reason, out of the blue, the doodle outlines began by me just keeping the pen on the paper and beginning and ending at the same point without lifting the pen off the paper, and to do it in maybe the time it takes to breathe in, breathe out. So it looked like absolutely nothing. Didn't look like a bird, a tree, or anything my little intellect could visualize. And then go back and fill it in however I wanted. So just by stepping into that spontaneous moment in time, which had no connection to seeing what an end result might look like, I really fell into a place of peace and calm. And it became a powerful spiritual practice for me.
Would you say, in a sense, it's a sort of meditation?
For me, it became an open eye meditation, literally. Mm-hmm. I've been studying meditation for many, many years. I'm not the best at sitting quiet, for a long period of time, although I've worked it up, over the years. But this absolutely, especially when I added some music in the background, whether it be Native American flute or Sanskrit chants, I just became so still and quiet. And I lost any connection to worrying about what it would turn out to be. For me, the relationship between the journey through cancer and art taught me it has nothing to do with worrying about the end result. If you can just trust the moment, you will be guided. And the art that I ended up creating really surprised me because it wasn't bad looking for somebody who loved paint by the number as a kid.
Now, my wife's a doodler. I mean, literally, we'll be at a conference and I'm taking copious notes and she's doodling. And she started doodling in school. She was one of those kids, I think that school was not her favorite thing because it was linear, logical, and mathematical and all that. And
Right.
she's much more artistic, actually a painter today. And she loved your book. She was leafing through the book and loved the doodles that you had created. She loved the blank pages that she could play with. She loved the quotes that you had, which had a lot more to do with this freedom of being in the now and not being in the future, not being in the past, not being programmed to create a result, but just to be in the flow of the journey of the experience of doing it. So I just tell you that I think you're doing something that's valuable for a lot of people that may not be someone who can sit with their eyes closed and, chant a mantra or follow their breath and still get to the same place. I think that's really cool.
Well, I've taken this into schools with elementary school children, and it's really a lot of fun to work with them because that's a pretty stressed out demographic. There's so much expected of them. So to give them a little time where they not only can tap into their own little creative artistic genius, which they all have, but it's also to make sure they understand when they get bored at home or they're nervous because they're going to have a test the next day, to take a little time and just do a little art. And enjoy that. There's no right or wrong. This is what I love about doodling. You could do a little doodle and maybe one day you like it one direction and then you turn it the other way, 90 degrees, and you like it the next day. So there's no mistakes. You don't have to have art skills. And it's something that costs pennies a day.
That's beautiful. Now, you said that the gifts come from unexpected places. And what's the greatest gift you've received from cancer? I mean, I know that's a difficult question to kind of ask. It's a very complicated, challenging time. But if you really believe that, what are the gifts that you got from having gone through the breast cancer? Twice, I believe you said.
Oh, exactly 2 years apart. If it was good for one breast, it was good for the other, I guess. But
I hear you.
Yeah. Greatest gift by far, which I will always hold this medical adventure, in my heart. I learned how to embrace the unexpected in my life and trust that the middle will, as long as I show up and I'm fully present, that the doodling took me into this sacred space where I connected with, the wisdom, the courage, the faith, everything I needed. And I didn't have to worry about the unknown tomorrows. So I feel much more empowered. I feel much more trusting of life as it unfolds, even in this crazy time we're living. As long as we each show up and do our best in each moment that we're living.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know you've created a DVD as well. Tell us about that.
Well, to me, it was I had this vision. I wanted to put something together that I could share that would show the doodles morphing from beginnings to middles to ends and weave it with Celtic harp music. And so Lisa Lynn, who is a well-known Celtic harpist, gifted me her music. And my dream with this was to put it in inpatient television programming in hospitals. So patients had an option of something that they could watch, as a meditation and something very peaceful and calming. And to other, cancer centers and waiting rooms. I created it a number of years ago, and I'm still looking forward to that door that opens up and say, we want it.
Very good. Well, talk to me just a little more about the book. Like I mentioned some of the things that are in there. Unpack the book a little bit for us. What if someone's going to buy your book? What are they going to find in there?
Well, on top of it, they're going to find, I think it's about 88 of my own doodles in there, but it's filled with a step-by-step guide on how you can step into your own creativity and learn how to doodle the way I teach it. And it's also got a lot of, some meditations and contemplations, a lot of blank pages to doodle, to journal. I really tried to make a book that was complete. I mean, a lot of people have said, "Oh, I don't want to write in this book." And to that, I would say, "Oh, just go down to the local art supply store, find yourself a blank spiral-bound book, but keep all of your doodles and make sure you sign your name and put a date on it."
Yeah, I noticed you did that. They're like individual works of art with your date and your name on it. It's very cool. So you run workshops. You basically teach people to do this. You're available as a speaker and a consultant and so forth. If people want to find out more about that, more about your book, where do they go?
They can go to my website, which is now thedoodlelady.com. I also trademarked the name. I decided I might as well have some fun in life. But that's where they can find the information. I'm in the process, as everyone else is right now, of reinventing ourselves to be able to offer these workshops virtually as well.
Very good. Yeah, we're all having to do that these days. Yeah, very good. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to talk about? I always like to ask that question to make sure we don't overlook anything important to you.
I think you've asked great questions, and I hope I've given you the answers that will, I haven't left anything out. I could share stories and stories about, the experiences I've had on a spiritual path, because this teaching by far is the one that my soul contract is tied up with, about living life and not worrying about those what ifs that might be down the road, especially at this stage of life. Which is an interesting chapter.
Sure. Tell us one of those stories. I'm curious.
I was invited to Australia early on, when in the early 90s. And I walked away from that tour with a great appreciation how much I really like beginnings, middles, and ends tied together. What I discovered was, for me, that's what my definition of faith would be about, because I really didn't have a sense of God. As long as I could figure out the beginnings, middles, and ends, I felt safe. So when we landed in Australia, it was a cloudy day. You could not see anything down below, and it was really frustrating for me because I did not have any bearings, a sense of where I was. So I was there for 3 weeks, and in the second week, they arranged for me to be flown in a biplane. And so I toured around, all of Sydney, and thinking I could put the dots together. I could connect them. This is where I was staying in Rose Bay. Here's the convention center. Here where the programs are. And I felt such a sense of comfort in knowing that. And then one day when I was in the middle of helping prepare for this, they sent me to the garage where all the material was for the tour, all different cities. And it was a mess in there, Jack, a mess. It was chaos. And I love chaos because I love to create order out of it. So I sat there for an hour, and out of the 6 cities, I arranged everything in city by city and made it all a neat bundle. So when I came home from that trip, I realized I really do like neat and order, and I felt safe. And so then cancer came into my life. The universe said, we need to teach you to feel that sense of trust and faith without having a sense of what the end would look like. And so the whole and then on top of it, knowing I come from a family of humor and laughter, let's give this one something as mindless and frivolous sounding as doodling to help her hold that teaching of how powerful it is just to chill out in that moment and not worry about the end result.
Very good. Well, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing it. So one more time, tell us how people can reach you, get a hold of your books, your DVD, and also work with you if they want to. Where do they go again? You
can find me at thedoodlelady.com. And I'm happy to, help plan any event you'd like to do, however it is, virtually or in person someday.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom. And thank you for creating the Doodle Book. I've got mine. I plan to play with it. My wife and I will probably fight over it, but no, we won't really fight. We'll share it. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing with us.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure.